So guys, I wanted to record a video, and I'll say right away that this isn't for beginners because I don't want to explain everything from scratch. If you have any questions, write them in the comments, or even better, join our Discord server and ask your questions there. If all the questions are gathered in one place, it will help not only you, but others as well. When I was creating these effects, specifically the ones you see on the screen right now, I was guided by the following idea: to make effects that are flexible and versatile enough to be used both in realistic scenes and in stylized ones, whether it's for games or for cinematics. I'll touch on this particular point a bit more as well in just a moment. The important question of optimization has definitely been addressed, and I gathered some reference screenshots for myself, though I'm still not entirely sure about them. Honestly, when I played this game, I didn't notice such effects. Either I missed them or just don't remember. Let me know in the comments if these effects were actually there, because, to be honest, I don't recall seeing anything quite like this myself. Here are a few frames. As you can see, before we even start creating anything at all, we need to make sure we fully understand what the effect actually consists of. In this particular case, we can clearly see that all of them actually have the exact same effect, which is made up of several different parts, layers that are stacked on top of each other. There's this very bright glowing line, and then we also have a distinct pattern. Here's the pattern which overall fills the available space, and there's a third element that I think isn't very noticeable. That's the background lighting. There's a slight subtle illumination here, just a bit, and sometimes, in some games, it can actually be quite pronounced. In this screenshot, in this particular screenshot, I don't see it here, and I think I don't really see it in the other screenshots either. There can sometimes be distortion, especially when you are recording a win or something similar. Usually, this is the effect of distortion that comes from the ball's impact trail. All these bright rays, these kinds of beams, are used as a basis in a similar way. As you know, a thin layer, a little highlight like this is used. Mainly it's distortion, of course. We'll go through all these cases. Let me show you, I have a video here. Let's take a closer look at another interesting moment I wanted to show you. Right here, when he's swinging something, specifically a spear. I think that when he swings the spear, it's important that you are able to see it clearly. As you can see, we can see that there are particles here, and in fact, that's because this boss, the player, is right now fighting this boss, not this one. The boss is located in this particular area, and as you can clearly see, this area actually consists of these various extensions, and from the different types of plants that are found here, and of course, when the sword is swung, these special effects should appear. Depending on who you use the boss effect for, and also where exactly you use it, these effects will appear accordingly, matching the situation. Here you need to notice, if you look more closely, you'll see that, in fact, he didn't cut it down. He didn't plow the field of these plants here, but these particles, these sparks, appeared where the sword's swing reached its maximum. So the swing happens here, and it's exactly around this swing that these effects are created. In other words, they appeared right here, not from here, and as you can see, the field itself hasn't been plowed. So it turns out this was just an extra decorative effect. Actually, I'm also in fact a Chinese sword practitioner and master, but using the name and in the past. Let me be as brief as possible here. I'll just give a surface level demonstration. I won't go into details. If you have questions, write them in the comments or just ask. As I already mentioned, all the links will be in the description below. And now, about our disc cursor, I want to show you how it was created and what it's actually made of. First of all, what is it made of? It's made of ribbons that are created and attached. Let's do this in Warframe mode. Let's take a look. When we swing the sword, these ribbons are created, which then connect to each other. It doesn't connect into a ribbon, and the ribbon stretches towards the sword's position and orientation, but we need to configure it ourselves. How do you do that? If you haven't watched it yet, check out this video. I explained it there. If you don't have characters, if you don't have animations, or if you haven't created sockets, you and your setup won't work. Basically, if you don't have anything ready, watch it and come back. When you return, you should have everything set up. Essentially, you need a character with a weapon in hand and the effect configured, and that's what we need to do. First, we need to set up and create. At least that's how I do it. We create it. I create an empty dependency, depending on which version you are using, but in the end, you should have it set up. It might be different for you, but in this case, I'm using version 5.7, so what do we need to do here? First, click on the project at the top and create a minimal one. If you already have something like an empty, then I won't create it. Now let's implement this from scratch. I'll just show you exactly how I did it. So here we have the effect. The effect actually consists of just one main module. As I mentioned, it's all a single emitter. We set it up carefully and then we duplicate it several times. For the other layers, as I already showed in the example here, our effect consists of several different layers. We have a distinctly pronounced line. We have a pattern, we have a background color, and we also have, though it's not actually visible here, such as a distortion. If you have it, that's good. So what do we need to do? The first thing we need to do is the following. You need to specify how long the game actually lasts. Here, go to the system, open up the main graph, and then specify the duration right there. For now, I have set it to 6000, and to ensure it triggers just once, the very first thing you need to do is set up the direction of the sword. Here, you click the plus signs and add the same things I have here. The only difference is this. You'll find a screenshot here, so you need to create it. It's created as follows, right here. And the Local Models tab, if you don't see it, simply press the Windows key and open it right here. Then click on the plus sign located here to create a new module. So we need to set up the rotation of our ribbon here in order to match the character's direction as well as the sword's rotation. How do we do that? First, we need a vector. This vector will help us ascertain which direction the sword is pointing. Then we need to convert the local space, the world. This is how we convert it and connect it here. Click apply and the module is ready. So after you finish everything, you can simply move it and specify it. Everything will work here. These 5 are the ones you absolutely need to add here. You can set the maximum civilization goal to 16 or however many you want, and it will be smooth for you. So what do we need to do next? Well, we need to set up the material for our project. So how do we actually do that? The very first layer is the distortion effect. How is the distortion effect actually created? The material we need here must be properly connected. Here it is. This is the one, and you can add it completely, just like I did here. But what you need to do is simply take the normal. Take this normal and connect it right here. That's all you need. And then you need to, here, connect this part to refraction. Just take it. So connect it to the one you need. But if you want to repeat it exactly like I did, then go ahead and do so and use the texture I specified here. You can find the content folders here in Engine, click on it, you'll see water here, and here you'll see the texture. Here it is. By default, it's located in the Engine Unity folder. What you need to know here is that in the site, you need to specify period too. The very last thing we need to do is specify the red site vector in our node graph, because as I mentioned before, we need to manually specify the direction in which the ribbon should be rotated. Let me remind you, our ribbon should be rotated in the direction of the sword, then we need to duplicate it. Just copy and paste it, keep all the keys exactly the same and rename it to background, meaning the backdrop. All the settings will be exactly the same, we just need to change the material for it. For the background, look, the bare minimum you need to do for both grants is this setting right here. You can simply copy it just like I did. This is the minimum you need, but if you want some additional settings, you can add them. I just don't want to drag out this video, so I'm showing it briefly. If you need it, you can simply repeat exactly what I have here. I'm just going to skip over it for now. I'm showing you everything in detail so you can see it clearly, and I'll explain a bit as we go. The things you can't just find and copy, I'll explain those parts. First, we need to create this particular part together. Everything you see here is in the list. You can call it up, add it, or whatever you need. Here, you can set the site and specify the period as 2, that's all. Then this gets multiplied. Multiplied by what? By this part here. And this part is needed for additional control, but honestly, it's not strictly necessary. If you want, you can add it. Again, everything is available. Just specify it as I do. We multiply it like this. This way, we call party color alpha, it gets multiplied, we saturate it, then multiply by tap tap, then by the overall opacity, and finally connect the opacities. Then we have the node ice adaptation inverse. What does it do? It simply ensures that, regardless of our post-processing, whether it's bright, dark, and so on, this effect will maintain a consistent brightness. Then we move on to this part. Here I have a gradient for people. I specifically created to add a subtle tint. As you can see right here, the green color smoothly transitions into another color. What I want is to have 2 particular shades, and here we can actually specify that this shade goes from this side to that side. Like this, or from this side to that side, depending on the effect you want to achieve. That's why I add a switch for myself, so I can conveniently set the direction, invert it, and so on. Well, you can simply call up these nodes, as I have here. They're called switch parameter, as written here, then power multiplier, and atlas. It's not here. Well, it is, of course. But it's a bit more complicated to set up. So, what do you actually need to do here in order to set it up correctly? And these are the same shades that we have been working with, but as you can see, this is a more advanced method compared to the basic approach. Normally, in most cases, we can mix 2 or 3 colors together to get a new shade. For example, we might use the blend tool, or if we have a layer, we can mix 2 colors directly on that layer. Atlas, on the other hand, is a tool that allows us to mix several different things at once, not just 2 or 3, but potentially more, which gives us more flexibility. So, what do we need to do to use Atlas? First, right-click somewhere here, specifically in the search bar area, and type Atlas. When you see it appear, create it, then go into it. I already have it here, ready to use. We need to add curves to this array. How do you create these curves? It's the same. In the middle, right-click, type it in, and you'll see it here. Click on it, and curve linear color, meaning we need color. This is color. You can specify your preferences here, open up this curve, and you can set exactly which colors your effect should have right here. You can set as many different colors as you want here, and here we add it, then you can use it. This gives you more flexibility and control over the effect. Here we've added it, specified the curve. You can use the color we select here, then I have hue shift. For shifting the hue, there's an additional setting. Desaturation, again, as well as contrast, brightness, and all of this is multiplied by the particle. Then I have an additional setting that I personally added. This is also optional. If you want, you can do it as well, but I think it might be a little bit difficult for you because you don't have this particular node available. However, I'll show you how to create it inside. It consists of this process. If you know what material functions are and how to create them, then please go ahead. If not, I don't want to go into details right now and make this video even longer than necessary, okay? That's all. The reason I'm showing you this now is because all the other effects will also consist of these parts. The entire effect, in fact, actually consists of these individual modules. Some of these modules are present, while some others are not present at all. That's it. And I won't focus on these particular things any further, okay? Now, here we have the background, which refers to the background color. Next, what else do we have here? We have a line. That very specific line, which is created right at the edge in order to emphasize and highlight the tip. We copy and paste exactly the same thing, making sure that we need absolutely everything to be exactly the same, with no differences whatsoever. Except for the material is different, as you can clearly see, obviously. Everything else is exactly the same, absolutely the same, except we don't have it. That upper part where I had the color tint, that's been removed. Otherwise, everything else is essentially the same for this material. Here, it's important to understand that for the line, the main thing is to adjust the mask parameters right here. The ones you see here now, you need to set these values in such a way as to turn them into a line. Do you see what values I have here? You can simply copy and paste them into your effect if you want, so you don't have to rack your brain figuring out which values to try. That's perfectly fine, but basically everything remains exactly the same. And lastly, there are two patterns. I have two of them. Again, just copy and paste. It's exactly the same. The material is the same, I think. Let's see, this part is very familiar to us and it should look quite recognizable and easy to understand. You can copy it, but here the most difficult part is separated out in a different color. And here it's going to be a bit problematic. But I don't want to focus too much on this particular part, but I'll try my best to explain everything as clearly as possible. All you really need to do is create this. Here's a small piece of code that looks like this. As you can see, you need to create and specifically specify the textures in detail. For distortions, it's mostly smoke or some kind of noise from A. Also, you can create a texture for noise, for example noise, and connect it like this instead of using a color. Everything will work perfectly for you too, okay? Then we duplicate this material twice, just making it in different ways. Here is one material and here is another. So I wanted to emphasize the details. For the details I specified different chairs and tweaked various parameters, and so on. Nothing complicated, as I already showed. Depending on where you want to use your effect, you might want to use certain sprites or textures, whether it's some kind of plant or sparks or stars. I mean, I don't know, it could be anything you want. So the idea here is very simple. We just create a small number of particle spam, specifically for the sparks, mainly for visual effect. The output here, I don't remember how many I have, and it doesn't really matter. Just call spam rate, specify a number here, like for example 40, and add the networks. The modules you see here, just run through some values here. It doesn't really matter, you don't need any precise values here. Again, I don't want to drag out this video, it's not really for complete beginners. The last thing we need to do is add a dependency to this particle, depending on what it's for. Depending on what you use it for, you'll just have different textures. Sparks, you'll have stars, darkness, I don't know what you'll have there, plants, axes, and so on, whatever is here. Add the module that you see I have, spawn rate, set it to around 30, right here you set the value. For example, you see here, spawn sparks amount 125. I have it set up right here, and you can also add the same module that I have included and set it up in roughly the same way as I did, and the value that I have set here is the one I am currently using. I just do not want to drag this out too much and go into too much detail right now, so I will keep it brief for the moment. The question is, how else are these effects created? Alright, next, we duplicate this several times. This is the simplest way. I change the color here a bit, and so on, as well as the texture. That's probably it. This is how these effects are created. Then you just need to carefully tweak and adjust the various parameters for these different materials, and basically after making these changes, everything should work out just fine for you.